whatever it is, caring for an elderly family member. I think at the end of the day, we're all kind of like in this place in history maybe where we're recognizing what it is to ultimately deconstruct all these gender roles and ultimately be human.
I often say you can't be what you can't see, and so we try to grab those girls and expose them to these careers, and I think having you here is amazing.
I enjoyed the conversation a lot because it included a topic about feminism and women empowerment, and I feel like we need a lot more of that.
Nearly 200 high school students attended the event. Do you want federal money flowing into your neighborhood for much-needed services? Of course, we all do. A big part of that depends on how many people get counted during the census. Los Angeles leaders already gearing up for the count in 2020. The kickoff began with a rally in Graham Park in downtown Los Angeles. Saida Pagan has the story.
What will we have?
Our fair share.
Let them hear you in the Southeast. What will we have?
Our fair share.
Let's get it.
It's called the Everyone Counts movement, and this Census 2020 Call to Action Day was just the start of a year-long effort to ensure that all LA residents will be counted.
Every single time you get one more person to fill out a census form, that's worth $2,000, and that's all we're asking for, is to get our fair share back. Not money that's Washington's, money we produced with our labor and our hard work that we send to Washington and that we demand in a democracy comes back to us. That's why we are here.
I count.
I count.
I count.
I count.
I count.
The stakes are high. Hundreds of millions in federal dollars are given to counties based on census data. In the past, LA lost more than $650 million because the population was undercounted.
That means less food on the table for families, CalFresh programs, Head Start programs, health services. It means our infrastructure dollars don't come back home.
Besides money, Los Angeles stands to lose congressional seats and political power if there is an undercount in 2020.
Los Angeles County has well over 10 million people, and government officials say that alone makes it one of the hardest areas to count for census purposes.
The focus now is on those who have traditionally chosen not to participate in the census: the homeless, low-income residents, and the immigrant population.
Our commitment is to go to the streets to say to our members, to our family, to our neighbors, that we need to make sure that we count, that we participate in this process that is coming in April 2020.
Los Angeles officials say they are leading the way in California by teaming up now with scores of community-based organizations, unions, and other government agencies. They say with greater support, they are confident that this time around, they will be able to raise awareness well before the final census count.
Some good news, the state of California has promised a $9.4 million grant to support public outreach in LA County. Well, he became famous for his portraits of musicians on album covers during the 1980s. And now the work of photographer Glenn Wexler is on display to take you back to a time of big hair and excess.
I'm Glenn Wexler. I'm a photographer, and we're here at Mr. Music Head Gallery in Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard across from the Guitar Center. This is my show called the 80s Portrait Sessions, and it's an exhibition of photography, which is kind of a time capsule of the excess of the 80s and the celebrities that kind of wore the excess. And it's supporting my new book project, which is the 80s Portrait Sessions. It's really just kind of a cross-section of the people that I shot during that time period. It ranges from early in the decade with musicians like Chaka Khan, Bob Weir from the Grateful Dead, who's on the cover of the book. I shot him in the early 80s, Michael Jackson from the mid-80s, and just kind of a range of other artists. The 80s was just a very unique moment in time. The economy was good, and it was a period of marketing excess. I started shooting album cover art when I was a student at Art Center College of Design, and the first project I shot was an album by the Brothers Johnson, who were produced by Quincy Jones Productions. That kind of opened the doors to the musical kingdom for me. It was like saying open sesame, and I got inside to like this very kind of exclusive world, and once I got in, I kind of never looked back. I began shooting a lot of album covers. I shot literally hundreds before I turned 30, and during that time period, I was commissioned mostly to do these very kind of elaborate narrative works, but it also gave me access to the musicians. I always wanted to kind of back away from the more complex type of epic album cover approach and do something just kind of, up close, personal, intimate, and just really connect with the artist. There's really great stories behind every session and every artist. One of the things that I have in my book is I did small little anecdotes, just kind of memories about the session and what we were doing. For me, the exhibit was really a unique opportunity to go back to my archives. It was a chance to look at some files that I hadn't seen, some as old as 35 to 40 years. So it was really kind of a trip going down memory lane. What was interesting for me is now we live in this digital world of photography, but it was my analog experience, spending years and years in the darkroom as a master darkroom printer, that informed all my decisions in creating the images for the show. So even though the work is kind of quote-unquote digitally remastered, it's the analog world it's the traditional photography that informed the digital decisions for this work. So I got kind of the best of both worlds.
One man has turned riding the bus into a non-stop quest for social justice reform. Gil Reyes reports from El Pueblo in downtown.
More than 12 years and over 120,000 miles of bus trips has led to a BBC documentary, various other projects, also this exhibit in downtown Los Angeles that chronicles the plight of people struggling to get by.
So the exhibit we have right now is called Greyhound Diaries, and we worked with journalist Doug Levitt, who is a former foreign correspondent, so a journalist who spent about 12 years on and off riding the Greyhound bus. While he was writing, he would listen to people, listen to their stories.
Some of these tales of troubled travelers are documented in downtown LA's Museum of Social Justice. The museum's Jennifer Gutierrez gives us a tour.
Vintage photographs.
Photos of Doug's travels
over the past 12
years, different, in different Greyhound stations. So it's really stories about people living on the edge, because that's who rides the Greyhound bus. The Greyhound is the cheapest way to travel if you want to travel long distances.
Levitt reported his stories using his own music. This led to a BBC documentary and book shining a light on income inequality in America. It's told through the loss of loved ones, the plight of undocumented immigrants, and the struggles of ex-felons readjusting to society.
Here it's so much more personal to see their faces.
And to personalize it, and then also I think then people can identify with it. Because not only do they can put a face and a story to an issue, but then also it might resonate with something that they've experienced or somebody they know who's had a similar experience as well. And I think that it really is the key to making change.
Get on board Greyhound Diaries. That's at LA's Museum of Social Justice at 115 Paseo de la Plaza at El Pueblo in downtown. The exhibit is free.
The Greyhound Diaries exhibit runs through May 26th. A new community basketball court is unveiled. Council District 9 connects residents to employers looking to hire, and a group of women are honored for their hard work. All this in City Beat.
Students in Watts celebrated the opening of the new Clippers community courts at the shared campus of the U High School and Charles Drew Middle School. Councilman Joe Buscaino welcomed rapper and community activist Styx, whose impassioned support for the project was the driving force behind it becoming a reality.
I'm going after organizations and sports teams that represent and that back places from where I come from, and the faces that look like me that support those faces.
Empower LA held their 2019 awards banquet at City Hall. The annual awards recognize LA neighborhood councils who have been leaders in civic engagement and responsiveness to their community's needs. Council District 9 recently partnered with AAA for a job fair in South LA. AAA has many positions available and is especially interested in hiring local applicants.
A lot of our people are coming back and wanting to stay within their neighborhoods and work, and we have a plethora of jobs to be able to supply.
He was a labor leader and civil rights activist who dedicated his life standing up for farm workers' rights. Cesar Chavez fought for equal treatment, pay, and decent working conditions. His contributions were celebrated with some food and fun during a day of remembrance.
Let us bless this day, bless this community. Amen.
And we're just happy to be here with you celebrating the life of Cesar Chavez.
Today we're here at the Great Lock High School in South Los Angeles celebrating Cesar Chavez Day. It's a great opportunity for the community to come together and really celebrate our values of the dignity of labor, the dignity of community, and the dignity of citizenship.
Having an amazing time honoring the memory of Cesar Chavez. There is so much we can learn from him and from the life that he lived. He was a champion for labor, a champion for immigrants, a champion for equity. On issues of fairness and issues of equity, things that we still struggle to achieve in this country. And we are a great place, a great city, but we still have a lot of work to do. Now that he is no longer with us, it is our job to continue his legacy and the work that he did.
We appreciate you for bearing the spirit of Cesar Chavez. Congratulations, sir.
It really means a lot to the community here. There's not a lot of events that happen here, so we're very thankful for that. There's a lot of vendors, there's a lot of community members, the food is great, the music is great, you know, all the tables that you go to, there's resources.
I did not wake up this morning thinking that I would be at a wonderful event such as this one.
Come enjoy family, come enjoy fun, but most of all, come celebrate the tradition of activism.
Wishing everybody a wonderful Cesar Chavez Day, and si se puede!
Enjoy a lineup of features and shorts from Indian filmmakers. Check out a new exhibit highlighting the Harlem Renaissance, and find your next great read at the Festival of Books. All this and things to do. You're invited to attend the 17th Annual Indian Film Festival of Los Angeles. Enjoy a prestigious lineup of narrative and documentary features, shorts, and star-studded gala events. It's all happening at the Indian Film Festival of Los Angeles, April 11th through the 14th. The festival will take place at Regal LA Live at 1000 West Olympic Boulevard. For more details, visit indianfilmfestival.org. Discover the works of Harlem Renaissance photographer Kwame Brathwaite in a new exhibit entitled Black is Beautiful. This photo exhibit will include iconic images that amplified one of the most influential cultural movements of the 1960s. Black is Beautiful, the photography of Kwame Brathwaite, opens April 11th and runs through August of 2019. The exhibit will be held at Skirball Cultural Center located at 2701 North Sepulveda Boulevard. For more info, visit skirball.org. It's the country's largest celebration of its kind. The Los Angeles Times Festival of Books returns to write another chapter in the hearts of SoCal book lovers. Explore authors old and new with over 400 booths and tables, book signings, readings, and more. So grab your required reading wish list and head on down to the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books, happening April 13th and 14th beginning at 10 a.m. The festival will be held at the USC University Park campus at 1335 Truesdale Parkway. For details, visit events.latimes.com/Festival of Books. And that's a look at some things to do. That's it for this edition. I'm Yana Kay. From all of us here at LA This Week, thanks for joining us. A reminder that you can catch us online at lacityview.org. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. See you next time for more of LA This Week.
morning. Good morning. Shh. Everybody try to take a seat. Welcome to City Hall. Today is Wednesday, April 10th. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. The public is welcome. Madam Clerk, we have a quorum. Would you please call a roll?
Blumenfeld, Bonin, Buscaino, Cedillo, Heristason, Weiser, Carets, Krikorian, Martinez, O'Farrell, Price, Rodriguez, Rue, Smith, Wesson. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
O'Farrell moves and Bonin seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Okay, Buscaino moves and Smith seconds. That brings us where?
Mr. President, items 1 through 6 are items noticed for public hearing.
Do you have cards on these items?
There are cards on items 1, 3, 5, and 6.
Okay, let's vote on the remaining item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Please move on to the next section.
And Mr. President, those ords will be carried over 1 week unless reconsidered with 12 members present.
Okay, I am optimistic we'll get another member. When that occurs, please remind me. So go ahead.
Items 7 through 24 are items for which public hearings have been held.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on those items.
Excuse me, Mr. President, I believe items 8 and 24 should be held for motions.
Okay, let's hold items 8 and 24. I know 8 we're holding at the request of Mr. Koretz. Okay, let's prepare to vote on the remaining items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Continue.
Items 25 through 30 are items scheduled for closed session. Would you like to hold those on the desk?
I think I'll hold them for a moment or two until I can chat with Mr. Krikorian, so please continue.
And Mr. President, that then takes council back to presentations, items called special or general public comment.
Okay, so before we begin, it is my understanding that we have a group of young people that are touring City Hall today. Apparently, we have 160 future leaders here. Would all of the students stand up? All of the students that are visiting. Let's give them a round of applause. You guys look great. We have, so when I call stay standing. When I call your school, just kind of wave and wiggle around for a minute. So we have Audubon Middle School. Where's Audubon Middle School? Not anywhere. Only one? Audubon, where are you in the house? Where's Audubon? No Audubon. Girls Academy, Girls Academic Leadership Academy. Yeah, all right. The Grace Hopper STEM Academy. Okay, let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you guys for coming. You can have a seat now. But thank you. It's my understanding we need to vote on reconsideration for item 7. So if we could, Mr. Clerk, put that up. Item 7, vote for reconsideration. Open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Okay, let's hold that. I think at the request of Ms. Rodriguez. Let's send item 19 forthwith. Ms. Rodriguez, would you like to begin with our first presentation for the day? So the floor is yours.
Come on, guys.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. I am delighted today to be joined by these young ladies from Clayton Middle School, the Girl Revolution Leadership Group that are joining us here at City Hall today. I have the delightful pleasure of doing this in absence of Mr. Curran Price, who was unable to join us today, but very excited that we are joined by these young trailblazers that are making a difference in their community. We are also joined by Clinton Middle School advisors to this group, Monique Bustos and Vanessa Luna. And the students that are here are Jacqueline Cambray, Alexa Contreras, Catalin Esquivel, Sofia Garcia, Brianna Ibarra, Brianna Morales, Azelia Ponce, Michelle Romero, Areli Rosado, and Mariana Velasquez. If we can please give them a round of applause. These outstanding young women are members of the Girls Revolution Club at their school and are leaders in their school community. For the last 2 years, they have been working on projects to educate their peers about important issues in their community. In 2018, their club held a canned food drive and distributed Thanksgiving baskets to families in need during the holiday season. This year, the club focused on an issue that we are all working collaboratively on, and they saw the opportunity to participate and support, and they are working to help individuals experiencing homelessness in their community. For a second year in a row, they received a grant through Girls Build LA, where their focus is to address the lack of services for people experiencing homelessness. They've collected hygiene kits for those experiencing homelessness and will be dropping them off at the local shelter in the 9th Council District later today. We are going to hear from members of Clinton Middle School to hear more about their project. And first, I'd like to invite Monique Bustos to provide some remarks on the work that they are doing.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I am Monique Bustos, the psychiatric social worker of the school, and I am the co-facilitator with Ms. Vanessa Luna and Ms. Andrea Perez.
Let's give them a round of applause, co-facilitators.
Before the girls begin discussing some of the things we have been working on, I also want to see if we can give them a round of applause. The Clinton family experienced a tragedy last week where we had 2 of our students involved in a fatal car accident. So the girls have been practicing as hard as they can, but if we could just give them a round of applause because they're very brave for being here today. And the girls will now begin. Thank you.
I am Brianna, and I'm Brianna.
Say hello.
Okay. Good morning. I am a member of CMS Girls Revolution, an empowering female group for 6th to 8th graders girls. CMS is located in District 9. District 9, which is the second highest homeless population in LA.
Living in an area with such a high population of homelessness, it's hard not to realize that there has to be a problem in our society. Well, why is there so many homeless? And there is. Well, we have such a high raising of apartments, homes. It's not affordable for most of the people living in this area, and lack of education, and there's also unemployment. We will be discussing about 3 points, and they will be spoken by my fellow classmates.
Good morning, City Council members. Our first topic is about building microhomes for the homeless population. We want the homeless population to have a safe place to live while they try looking for a job. This way, they can learn to provide for themselves and be more responsible. These microhomes will only be temporary, so they can have time to look for a better place to live. By building microhomes, we can help the homeless population move forward in life. Thank you all.
Hello, my name is Sofia Garcia.
And I am Arely Rosado.
And our second topic that we feel will help this case is by providing education and training for those people to get jobs. We also want to find jobs that will not discriminate them because of the lack of housing and daily necessities. By doing this, they could contribute by putting in their free time and doing community service. We not only want to help them once in a while, we want to help them regain their feet in the society. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Michelle Romero.
And I'm Brianna Yubara.
And we are in 6th grade, and we would like to ask why are stadiums being built so quickly, and why aren't there being affordable housing built with the same amount of urgency?
Since all these stadiums are being built as of right now, not only are they raising the rent prices, they are also increasing the homeless population. With this happening, people are also having paycheck to paycheck, meaning no saving for the future. Thank you.
So we ask you, council members, what will you do to prioritize our homeless population?
Thank you, ladies, and thank you for your activism. I know Councilman Price is sorry that he wasn't able to be here and celebrate the work that is happening in the new 9th, because if he was here, he would remind us that it's the new 9th. But we thank you very much for your leadership and demonstrating the power of young women and your voices to be heard. And we thank you for joining us here at City Hall, but we thank you for making an important contribution in your community. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, please help me give these ladies a round of applause for their work.
And Ms. Rodriguez, before you present the resolution, I'd like to recognize Mr. Cedillo.
Mr. President, all I wanted to do is say to these young women, congratulations, particularly for coming here this morning, talk to your government, talk to your representatives, and for speaking out and using your voice. It's not easy. I don't know if you know this, but the greatest fear that all people have is public speaking, is to get up and say what you think and feel. And when people take polls, like what would you rather do, jump out of a plane or confront an animal or whatever, the greatest fear they have is public speaking. So today you've come and overcome that greatest fear, and it's a beginning of your path to using your voice, living your life, and making an impact on our community. You're real leaders of the future. You've already had an influence, and so I want to applaud you and your parents and your teachers for bringing you here today. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Well said, Mr. Cedillo, well said.
Let's go to the back room and take some pictures.
Let's give them one more round of applause. Thanks, ladies, and good luck to you in the future. Mr. Bonin, as they are exiting, you're the next presentation.
From the hot seat.
Yes, oh yeah. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. How you doing? Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, colleagues. I'm doing a presentation today because today is Alcohol Awareness Month, and it is an opportunity to highlight the problems of alcohol addiction and the various resources that are available and tools available for people to fight that addiction. It's a cause, as you know, that is near and dear to my heart. And when we focus on increasing awareness and understanding of alcohol addiction, the causes of addiction, and the work that must be done to treat addiction and get people suffering from this disease the help they need, we make significant progress. It's that final focus that I just mentioned that leads me to today's presentation. So I'd like you to join me in welcoming the founders of Startup Recovery to our council chambers today. Startup Recovery was founded in December 2017 in Pacific Palisades by Greg Champion and Jeffrey Van, who are both here with me today. Within a year and a half of their opening their program, Startup Recovery had launched a whole range of services, an after-school and family program. They opened
Hold
a
on,
second...
Mr. Biden. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. They opened up an after-school and family program. They opened up their second transitional residence, and they launched their pretty unique recovery playbook for coaching curriculum. They use a modern approach for people in the early stages of alcohol addiction, seeking a practical route to long-term sobriety. Their mission is to offer integrative programs in comfortable, sober environments designed to transform lives and help clients start rebuilding their relationship with themselves. It is a hell of a lot more advanced and sophisticated and supportive than the sober environment I entered 24 years ago, where you went to a few meetings and got a sponsor and white-knuckled it. This is a lot more comprehensive and a lot more supportive. In addition to their pretty dynamic curriculum, one of Startup's cornerstones is their sober mentor of network of professionals, which gives their clients access to a role model with long-term sobriety and success and provides a living example and a blueprint to the new way of living that is really essential to staying and living sober. The founders, the staff, and the clients of Startup believe that recovery is a lifelong effort and that no one should have to do it alone. So I'd like to thank Greg and Jeffrey for creating such a meaningful and important program in my district that provides a path to sobriety. And I'd like to present them with this certificate, thanking Startup Recovery and acknowledging today as Startup Recovery Day. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, we'll do a photo.
Hey,
I'd like to invite them to say a few words.
Before they say a few words, just let me tell you, I'm so appreciative of what you guys are doing and what other people throughout the world are doing to try to provide folk with a second opportunity at life. And you're changing lives, and you get people that just think they can't make it to tomorrow, and then next thing you know, they're leaders in industry and they're doing all of these phenomenal things. It's a hard job. So I just want to say we're very appreciative. We want you to keep it up and do more, because the more people that you save, then the more people they're going to want to save and give a second chance to. So, I mean, guys, like Mike said, this is hard work. Let's give them a real round of applause, because this has touched all of us one way or another. So, again, Mike, kudos to you. Guys, thanks a ton. The floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you, City Council. It's great to be here. Thank you, Councilman Bonham. As someone who is 24 years sober, I was able to shift my addiction to my passion, and that passion was work. And so part of our tagline is shifting addiction to passion, and we coach people in 4 different lanes: recovery, career, passion, and legacy, setting up men and women who suffer from alcoholism or the disease of addiction to find a new path. And we really ask our residents and our clients to push the reset button on their life. And in a very short amount of time, Startup Recovery has created quite an impact here in Los Angeles. And we intend to spread the name of Startup Recovery nationwide with the help of people like Mike Bonham and other strong people in the recovery business. And I'll turn it over to my partner, Jeffrey Van.
Thank you so much. This is truly an honor. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. You know, the idea of being of service to the community is something that really turns Greg and I on. And it's a one day at a time thing. We feel like this is our legacy, and we're committed to making an impact, and we're really grateful for this opportunity to be here today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you.
Photos with the skyline backdrop and stuff.
Thank you.
Ms. Rodriguez, item 7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I just wanted to take a quick moment to recognize and thank a constituent of mine who has agreed to serve on our Area Planning Commission for the Northeast. He has been a wonderful contributing member of the community, very active, very thoughtful, but his participation is going to help really round out the kinds of decisions to make sure that we are addressing the needs of our community. And I want to thank Mr. Araz Parshigian, a resident from Tahunga, who has agreed to serve in this very important role on this Area Planning Commission. And I ask you all for your aye vote.
Okay, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, you know what? I'd like to recognize Mr. Krikorian at this point. Mr. Krikorian, you want to walk us through 25 through 30 and your recommendations to us?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Items 20, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30 all involve settlements. The city attorney has made recommendations for approval of some and rejection of others, and all of those have been considered by Budget and Finance, which recommends approval of the city attorney's recommendations as to all matters. Those can be considered in open session unless members have questions or concerns.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk.
For item 25, in the case entitled Sonia Caranco versus the City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend up to $135,500 in settlement. For item 27, in the case entitled Amber Witch versus the City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend up to $175,000 in settlement. For item 28, in the case entitled The Estate of Omar Gonzalez
Okay, you're going to get in the wedding receiving line now.
versus the City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to reject the plaintiff's offer of settlement. For item 29, in the case entitled ACLU of Southern California versus the City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend up to $337,500 in settlement. And for item 30, in the case entitled Hartford Fire Insurance Company versus the City of Los Angeles, there is a recommendation to expend up to $300,000 in settlement. And for item 26, the city attorney would like to make a statement.
Thank you. So for item 26, Babakian v. City, the recommendation for my office had been to reject the plaintiff's offer of nearly $2.5 million, but since that recommendation went through Budget and Finance, we received a defense verdict in favor of the city, so we owe nothing. So I recommend that we receive and file the action and essentially take no action on it.
Okay, I'll make the motion. Mr. Smith will second it. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Mr. Buscaino.
Sir, no vote on 25 and 27. Thank you.
Okay, that won't change the outcome, so let's do just that. Let's do item 8. It's my understanding that the amendment or adjustment has been circulated. We have a card. Do we have Jeffrey Meisner? Please come forward to the microphone.
And as the speaker makes his way forward, just for the record, the amending motion 8C has been posted and distributed.
Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Council members, I'm Jeffrey Meisner. I'm a board member and second vice president of the Tarzana Neighborhood Council. I'm also chair of its Animal Welfare Committee and a volunteer at the city's West Valley Animal Shelter in Chatsworth. The Tarzana Neighborhood Council passed a community impact statement in support of CF 17-0079. The community impact statement supports allowing animal rescues to operate in commercial zones in order to increase animal adoptions and save the lives of animals. Furthermore, all of the volunteers at the West Valley Shelter who I have spoken to about this support this ordinance. This ordinance arose out of an incident involving Rock and Rescue in Woodland Hills that was almost shut down. There's a community.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, well, you said you have a community impact statement on this issue?
Yes, on 0079.
I'll give you another minute or so.
Okay, thank you. I just want to note, some of you may have received letters stating that this ordinance will lead to animal hoarding and all sorts of terrible conditions for the animals in these rescues. The exact opposite is true. People are less likely to do hoarding in a commercial zone where everything is visible and open to the public than in an industrial zone. All of the conditions in these rescues in the commercial zones will be visible. That's one of the purposes of the ordinance, to make them more accessible to people. Thank you.
All right, let's prepare to vote on this issue. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
All right.
And that is as amended.
Okay, Mr. Sachs, are you still around? Come up. You have items 1, 3, and 5 in general public comment.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. Arnold Ross Sachs, actually, to speak. Speaking about the items that are held 1, 3, and 5 together, and I have 3 minutes for that, or okay. So, items noticed for public hearing. Hearing protests, appeals, or objections. Is this 5? Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me, wrong document. Items noticed for public hearing. Continued consideration of hearing protests and ordinance first consideration. So, based on your rules, I'm going to protest, and you can hear my protest about the rules about public hearings you're not being allowed to speak on noticed public hearings.
So no, Mr. Sachs, you really need to stick to the
I am.
subject
It
matter.
says right here.
No, this is all about street lighting. So you should discuss the street lighting items.
Arnold, we're not going to go back and forth. Okay.
Deny the protest. It says I'm reading your rules. See,
Mr. Sachs, give him his 1 minute for general public comment. We're not going to go back and forth.
So my
general public comments, you can speak just about
okay. So my general public comments, again, we go back to the rules, and I like this item that you just passed. You considered the motion, just like you have written back here. The council passed a motion, but you don't read the motions into the record. So if you don't read the motions into the record, then they're not part of the record. And if they're not part of the record, then they're not part of the rules. It's the game. I played this game yesterday at the County Board of Supervisors. I suggested that Janice Hahn should receive kudos for the work she did at the Coliseum Commission by getting it renamed and having American Airlines, since they own the Coliseum now, by renaming it, they'd be responsible for the security for all the events at the Coliseum. All in all, this is really about saving face. I like Colin Kaepernick's courage. I don't necessarily know the guy, but I appreciate the fact he stood up and said, something's got to change.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's take a vote on item 3. So, Mr. Clerk, item 3, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, let's deal with, bring up Mr. Previn. Mr. Previn, you have items 5 and 6, and then your general public comment. So he gets 2 minutes and then a minute for general. So where's Mr. Previn? Mr. Previn, I'm going to start your time.
I'm just starting my recorder, sir, so I have a clear record of this. Thank you. It's Eric Previn, sir, and I very much appreciate your calling us up today. The item number, you got a couple of the items wrong, though I'm happy to talk on them first and wait until the end. We can litigate that the ACLU case, $337,000, is a closed session that I...
Mr. Previn, you have items 5 and 6 that you can speak on today. If you don't want to speak on those items, I'll give you your 1 minute for general public comment.
No, I want to speak on the items, and I know what they're about. They're lighting districts. One of them is in Koretz's district, where on Friday nights you cannot get him to come to a local community meeting, but he will provide lighting district information. And look, we appreciate what Koretz has been doing, and Mausner is down here today with the pet item, and you let him speak, even though that's not...
Let's give him his 1 minute for general public comment. I already warned you twice,
sir,
Mr. Previn.
No, give me my 1 minute. I'll take care of it. Thank you, sir. This morning in rules, you completely violated me because there's a 5-minute rule that you come to the table if you do a
stop
CIS.
Stop the time. Mr. Previn, I'm not going to let you sit up and say something that's untrue. That's at the discretion of the presiding officer. The statement that you had was over a year old and had been acted on. So now you can say what you want, but I'm not going to let you come up here and just say BS. That's not true. Get back to your general public comment.
Okay, and let the audio guy bring my mic up. Thank you. Appreciate that. Actually, sir, I will take you in on that. 1269 S5. You'll find a community impact statement from us in late 2018, and that item is coming before you today, and we had an opportunity to weigh in. Our idea was that your matching fund program, which I did a huge chart on and circulated around, and everyone, our whole neighborhood council voted on all that. And what happened, sir, was you provided no relief, and now you're hurrying up to get relief in your Ethics Commission morning meeting. Totally inappropriate. But I want to go back to item 29 because that's on today's agenda. It is a closed session item. I'm in general public comment. Totally inappropriate. I should have an opportunity now that you've disclosed what's happening in that case, that you want to pay $337,000, should have waited before you voted and let us speak. And we'll take it to the court, and we'll get a ruling, and then you'll have to eat it once again like you did with the appellate course. And, sir, I don't like to fight with you. I like to comment on items so that the public knows that the ACLU's getting
Thank you. Your time is over. Okay, let's vote on reconsideration for items 2 and item 4. On 2 and 4, please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
So now let's actually vote on the item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Antonio Ramirez, you have items 1, 5, and 6. General public comment. Please stay on the items, please.
Thank you, General. Sir, I will go ahead and gladly take just public comments. Thank you very much.
Give her 1 minute for general public comment.
Thank you very much. LAPD Chief Michael Moore, Steve Soberoff, Eric Garcetti, and City Attorney Michael Fior, you have failed to provide us with public safety. You are nothing more than political pandering pussies and ass slickers. So you lick those nigger asses and chango Latino wetbacks and gangbanging asses, and you lick them good because that's all you know how to do. Now, niggers and Latino changos are not above the law, and I demand that you start enforcing the rule of law, and that is protect the well-being and the quality of life of all legal law-abiding citizens. Start the deportations. And sadly, you have said, Eric Garcetti, that LA is so safe. Where? I heard that this rapper was just killed, and now you say the crimes, what a horrible crime. So you're contradictory. You can't control this city because this city controls you. You're basically run by the fucking gangbangers. And I command you to go and do your job. We need a new mayor. Recall the mayor and recall the city attorney.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. Thank you. Your time is expired.
Shut the board.
Okay, your time is expired. Please take a seat. Okay, now let's, Mr. Clerk, pull up. We're going to vote on items 1, 5, and 6. Please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Let's start with do some general public comment. Bishop Francisco Arturo Flores, Jose Flores, Oscar Aguayo. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mayor. My name is Bishop Francisco. I'm out of Bakersfield, California. I brought you a card from the Chief of Police there. I come here to speak concerning the mysteries of the kingdom of God, concerning Maxine Waters releasing that violent spirit in our political arena. I serve under Democrats and Republicans, and also the Lord wanted to let you guys know that He called Trump to office as the president of this nation, and He said those that don't believe that He called him to them, that we don't have to go violently. They call on a God, and I'll call on the God that I'm representing, and the God that prevail, let the people follow that God. And also a mystery that has been in L.A. for years, that in 1995 I was here speaking at of the Pastors Association, and that day the earth shook here in L.A., and that night the news reporter said that it didn't register, something hit the earth tonight, and it didn't register as
Thank you, sir. So let me get the Flores and Flores. Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Arturo Flores. I'm a community activist, long-term resident of South Central Los Angeles. When I was on the campaign trail for the governor's race, I heard Delane Easton say, when someone tells you what their priorities are, ask them for their budget. Until this day, those words have rang true. My biggest concern, I'm in support of 24. I think that the funding that's being allocated for the social equity program is not enough. I think there should be increase. I think that those funds should be rolled over if they're not used for the next year and not go into the general fund. You guys are quick to approve $25 million to go into enforcement, but we had to fight for another 1.5 of the 1.5 that you guys initially intended to. This is a program that's going to directly affect Latinos and African Americans and produce a long-term wealth in our communities. So I think it's appalling the support that this program has received and is a significant of where your guys' priorities are at. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Flores.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I just want to say I think everybody deserves a fair chance when it comes to this weed industry, regardless of your color, your socioeconomic level. I think it should be fair and square for everybody, not just let industries come in and just take over the whole market. Thank you.
Thank you. And before the next speaker, if I can get Antonio Lopez, Carla Mitchell, Tyrone Freeman, Virgil, make your way down. Yes, sir. Identify yourself.
Good morning, council members. My name is Oscar Aguayo. I run a business resource center in South Central Los Angeles. So I work with a lot of social equity applicants and try to give them as much as technical assistance and mentorship. Overall, the 1.5 million, it's not enough. It's not enough. We need to be able to raise that to 3 million. And still, even saying 3 million, it's not enough. We know this is very important to be able to fund the social equity program because they're coming to your communities. We need to. They're bringing money. They're gonna really help out the whole community overall. And it's important to continue to fund these programs because they're gonna stabilize more of our economy, our local communities. They're gonna be a part of our community, so it's important to really fund these programs. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Next, please identify yourself.
Soy Antonio López. Buenos días, señor Gil Cedillo. No vuelva a mentarles a los niños, animales y el avión. Respete eso. Buenos días, soy Antonio López.
Good morning, my name is Antonio López.
No vuelva, señor Cedillo, a decirles a los niños el avión y el tema animales. Ok, cambio de tema.
About the subject.
Porque un día lo vamos a correr.
Because one day we're going to fire you.
Soy Antonio López y quiero decirles, la gasolina tenemos que eliminar los precios.
I am Antonio Lopez.
2.50
I am Antonio Lopez, and I want to tell you that we have to eliminate the gas prices.
$3 no más.
From $3.50 to
$50
$3.
de 2.50 a jugarlos.
From $2.50 to
También
$3 to play with them.
eliminar lo que es la renta y comida y la economía, salvarla y dejar que no se vayan los ricos fuera de aquí.
And also to eliminate rent, food, and not to let the rich to get out of here.
Y hacer por las comunidades, si no, después todo va a ser un crimen, un robadero por todas partes y la policía no va a poder hallar qué hacer con diferentes comunidades. Gracias, mi corazón es para ustedes.
And also to work for the community, otherwise the police won't be able to do whatever they can do for the community. Thank you, and my heart goes with all of you guys.
Thank you.
Have God with you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Okay, please come forward, identify yourself.
Hi. Good morning. My name is Carla Mitchell. I have joined Equity First Coalition because this group of individuals wants and desires to see this program run with fair equity. I got involved in the Los Angeles Cannabis last year, and I uncovered fraud. I'm having a difficult time dealing with DCR. I need a meeting before City Council that's private. My life is being threatened because I'm exposing them, and I need some assistance. In addition to the funding that's allowed for social equity, I feel that it needs to be monitored more closely, and that our social activists here are able to have a great input on how this money is being spent in the community.
Thank you. So if I can get the next speakers to step up, I'm looking for Christian Lavelle, Gabe Guzman, Matthew Vientamilla, Abel Saucedo. Yes, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Before I begin, I wanted to just congratulate you on your tolerance and ability to take a lot of the things that are said at this podium. That's complimentary of this great city. Tyrone Freeman, head of California Minority Alliance. I wanted to talk a little bit about the social equity funding. I believe it's a step in the right direction, and I want to encourage the council to do one thing, but not hold back on the vote. I want to encourage the council to instruct in the ordinance that it's a public-private partnership to help mitigate the risk, to help incorporate more community involvement, and to ensure that there is success on the outcomes that each and every one of you foresee in allowing and allocating the funds necessary for the social equity program. Mr. President and members of the council, I have for 20 years in this city led public-private partnerships with hundreds of millions of dollars, and every single one was a success. When the mayors of this city I've worked with, the head of SEIU, and the counties of this city, I have history with public-private partnerships, and again, it is the best use of public dollars, and if we can do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Next, Mr. Grant.
Good morning, Council President and Council. My name is Virgil Grant, co-founder of California Minority Alliance, and I stand here representing Phase 1 applicants and also the there are 16 unlicensed shops that surround my location. There are many more that surround other locations, and so I'm here to talk about enforcement. Enforcement needs to happen now because social equity will fail. These unlicensed shops are taking up real estate, and they're not making it possible for other applicants that will come under Phase 3 to find a location. And it's killing those that are doing the right thing by paying taxes, following the rules and regulations. There are hoops we had to jump through. Everybody else have to jump through those same hoops. So I appreciate what you're doing, Council. Let's move forward on enforcement. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you for coming down. Yes, next speaker. Identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Kristen Lovell, and I'm an organizer with the Equity First LA Coalition. We ask the council to approve $3 million in funding for the technical and business assistance for DCR's social equity program. This is in addition to the $1.5 million for fee deferrals, which needs to be transferred now so that it can be used before the end of the fiscal year. This is a step, but it's not even enough to start to begin to repair the harms from the war on drugs. Indeed, the program funding should not be limited to 3 years. Generational wealth cannot be created in this time frame, and the funding should roll over if unused, not revert to the general fund. Enforcement should be civil, not criminal. Increasing the already massive LAPD budget is not the primary way to support community reinvestment. Community reinvestment is what this is all about, and you will continue to see us here until we see the money. LA better have our money, and you need to put equity first.
Good morning. My name is Gabriel Guzman, co-founder of Latinos for Cannabis, and I'm here also on behalf of Equity First LA Coalition. We asked the council to approve $3 million in funding for the technical and business assistance for the DCR social equity program. Also like to point out that 25% of cannabis revenue should be set aside every year in a non-reverting line item in the city budget and programmed by the community in conjunction with DCR. DCR's director should not be requesting the resources every year. She should be presenting a program plan for approval only. Any funds not expended each fiscal year should stay within the department because the damage is so deep and wide in the community that there may be events that will require saving money over a number of years. Measure M empowers you to establish a structure because Measure M calls on you not only to seek social equity, but to seek social justice. Having the community to beg for resources each year can be seen as a lacking of understanding of the severe damage done to the community under the guise of being a war on drugs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning. Hello, can you guys hear me? My name is Abel Salcedo with Arms of LA. We work to assist at-risk youth, veterans, the homeless, and anyone in need of a second chance. The jobs created by the oil and gas industry benefit people from across California, across many diverse and ethnic and class backgrounds, including individuals who want to have good, paying, middle-class jobs. Please don't eliminate these good-paying jobs for local residents, as well as for potential future workers in the industry, such as members of our organization. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm also going to ask for Christina Marsh, Jorge Nunez, Daniel Morales, Adam Vine to come up as well. Yes, sir. Identify yourself.
Hi, good morning, council members. My name is Matthew Ventimiglia. I'm a financial educator locally in the city of Los Angeles and a proud resident of Lomita. As you may know, April has been declared as Financial Literacy Month, which was recognized in 2004 by Senate Resolution 316 to raise public awareness about the importance of financial education and the serious consequences that may be associated with a lack of understanding about personal finances. 15 years later, these principles are still relevant. The reason I'm here today is to share with you about our national campaign for financial literacy to have 1 million financially educated families by 2020. Our organization has helped some of the most underserved communities across North America. We provide free financial classes by experienced and certified instructors. My family personally has benefited from this campaign and education, and we are passionate advocates of this cause. Most importantly, I'd like to invite the City of Los Angeles to join our campaign and help us with our cause by allowing us to bring these classes to LA City residents in our libraries and community centers in our 15 districts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Christina Marsh, and I'm a member of Equity First Alliance. And I would ask that the money, the 1.5, thank you, gets transferred now so that CAC can spend it by the end of the fiscal year. And the funding should roll over if unused, and it should not ever, again, revert to a general fund. I am speaking as a citizen who voted for Measure M and believed you about community reinvestment. It is everything our company stands for. I demand to know where LA has put our cannabis tax dollars. The world is watching. They are watching lives be destroyed by a city who has sent a message loud and clear that they don't care about equitable business or community reinvestment. As Mike Bonin said, when you put equity in the third of your priorities, it's not equity at all.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning. My name is Daniel Morales. I want to resume what I do in the community for the last 20 years. We work with youth. I'm here to support the oil industry because they're going to create jobs. When I talk to youth people around the low-income communities, they want to finish school to get a job after they finish it. I love this city. Sadly, I don't born here, but my heart is an Angelino, like everybody else here. But I'm supporting this because we need to create hope in these kids that finish in school. And that way we continue growing this beautiful city for them and their new family that come in off of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. And if I could get Zach Strasters, Sonia Casas, and Shannon Degrooms. Yes, sir. Identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Adam Vine. I'm a co-founder of Cage Free Cannabis, and I'm a member of the Equity First Los Angeles Coalition. I want to echo the comments of my fellow members to ask this council to approve the $3 million in funding for technical and business assistance for the DCR Social Equity Program. And that's in addition to the $1.5 million for fee deferrals, all of which needs to be transferred now so it can be used before the end of the fiscal year. Now, these are steps, but these are not even close to being enough to begin repairing the harms of the war on drugs or fulfilling this council's and this city's commitments to equity. Indeed, program funding should not be limited to 3 years. Generational wealth cannot be created in this time frame. The funding needs to roll over if unused, not revert to the general fund. Enforcement needs to be civil and not criminal. Increasing the already massive LAPD budget is not the primary way to support community reinvestment, and that is what this is all about. You will continue to see us here until we see the money. Put equity first.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, good morning. My name is Shannon DeGrooms. I'm from District 2, and I'm also a member of the Equity First LA Coalition. Also want to echo the sentiments and say that we're asking the council to approve $3 million in funding for technical and business assistance for DCR's social equity program. This is in addition to the $1.5 million for fee deferrals, which needs to be transferred now, so it can be used before the end of the year. It's a step, but it's not enough in repairing the harm of the war on drugs. Indeed, program funding should not be limited to 3 years because general wealth, as we all know, cannot be created in this time frame. I'm sure many of you may have some of this generational wealth. The funding should roll over if unused and not revert to the general fund. We need transparency and oversight on all matters regarding social equity and cannabis tax revenue. And we ask that the Office of Finance be required to issue quarterly statements as well. Enforcement should be civil, not criminal. Increasing the already massive police budget is not the primary way to support community reinvestment. Community reinvestment is what it's all about.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, please. Identify yourself.
Good morning, council and staff. My name is Zach Strasters, and I'm here with Arms of LA to support keeping oil jobs local. California has the strictest safety and environmental regulations in the nation when it comes to oil and gas production. By keeping the industry here locally, we are able to follow and enforce those strict regulations. The industry is also committed to hiring locally and to hiring in the communities they operate in, including those in which our organization operates in. I urge you to think about the men and women who are employed by the industry and the economic benefits that the industry provides. Thank you.
Thank you. So is there anyone that I didn't call? That concludes. Come on. Yes, ma'am. Identify yourself.
Ignite.
Okay, now I'm going to let you speak this time, but you have to fill out a card in the back.
I did.
And no, it's not on my computer. So I'm going to let you go now. So go ahead.
It's disrespectful to point at people.
Look, do you want to
we are
speak
here.
or not? I'm being respectful by affording you an opportunity to chat. And I'm not pointing at you. I'm acknowledging you.
Acknowledging me and pointing at me are two different things.
Well,
however,
go
I'm already
right ahead.
15 seconds into my comment, and we are here to yet again beg for you guys to do what you should already be doing. You know, we are fully aware of the effects of the so-called war on drugs in a community that is deliberately singled out in the world to set up for failure. It is unfortunate that people have to come and beg for things that is set up in place for everyone else. Yet it is taken away from and dangled in front of another group, knowing good and damn well that if given to that group, they would be able to do what's necessary for themselves.
Thank you. Next speaker, please identify yourself.
My name is April Watkins. I'm actually a constituent of District 10. I'm present today to demand the finance of cannabis social equity. When the Cannabis Equity Act was signed, its intent was to ensure that persons most harmed by cannabis criminalization and poverty were offered assistance. It's time to deliver that assistance. The war on drugs has left my neighborhood of 30 plus years as a casualty due to the disproportionate law enforcement and targeted incarceration of people of color and low income. The cannabis industry has been built on the backs of black and brown people going to jail. It's now time to address that. It's time to reinvest in these communities now that we have the legalization, and we've suffered the most due to the prohibition policy. Release the funding.
Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Abbott, and I'm an applicant and an advocate of social equity, Tier 1. I come from District 8, the Lamert area. I'm coming this morning to say after 19 cases, after 18 of my cases were expunged and one was dismissed, I could finally vote. The election is coming up, and I'm pretty sure you guys need our votes. So for something, well, today we need your vote right now. Not now, but we need it right now. And to get the funding we need, with your support and your vote, we can move forward with the licensing to start a better way to live and better schools and education for our kids. I have been at every council meeting. I will continue to be at every council meeting until something's done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name is Elaine Strother. I'm from the 8th District. I'd like to ask the council president and all council members, how are you doing your part representing change in our people's community? I have close friends and family who have fought cases and are incarcerated due to marijuana felony convictions. These convictions have created burdens of getting jobs, supporting one's family, keeping peace in home, and have torn a lot of families apart. The social equity program can turn this around. In January 2018, 25% of taxes were dispersed in other ways rather than being spent on the community. These funds should have gone to the social equity program and the community revitalization plan. What is the current budget and plan, and how and when do you plan to fund the social equity program in order to inform people and create jobs?
Thanks. Next.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Social justice and equity was supposed to be the moral compass for the cannabis industry in Los Angeles. My name is Felicia Carbajal. I'm a member of Equity First LA Coalition. We represent the intersectional community voice, reminding our leaders that this is what we voted for, that this is what is needed to begin to even scratch the surface on addressing the historical harms caused by the war on drugs. We do ask you to approve that $3 million in funding for the technical assistance, in addition to the $1.5 million for the fee deferrals. We know the amounts are incremental. He that violates his oath profanes the divinity of faith itself. You all know where that's at. I just got to learn it myself. So we're asking you to reinstill faith in this process, faith that you will all lead by your convictions to heal the harms in our city.
Thank you. Next, identify yourself. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Scott, and I have a property location in the 10th District. I'm a Tier 1 social equity applicant, and I stand here today because I'm confused. The social equity program, I've been following it for quite some time. I've had the location now for over a year, and I go to meetings and I hear what you guys are saying, but nothing is solid. Everything is a roller coaster. funds are supposed to be given a long time ago, and we still don't have it. And we're talking about $1.5 million in Los Angeles. I mean, it really sounds really sad, and I'm confused, and I need answers, and I need to understand this program. I sit here and I beg you guys, because I'm losing money. I'm losing myself in this. I don't understand. So many people like myself stand behind me who need to know what's going on with this program. It's very, very sad, and it breaks my heart to see Los Angeles moving in this manner. You guys really need to have some authority.
Thank you.
Really.
Next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Kika Keith. I have stood before all of y'all many times before. I was featured in the LA Times in regards to my situation that happened on Crenshaw Boulevard. Before that, The Wave and NBC, where we fought pre-ICOs that were able to move their locations. We're constantly at a disadvantage, y'all. And the longer that you wait, the more predators come and prey on my people and my community. The longer you wait, we are in despair. And the whole purpose of this program was to bring hope. That's why those voters voted it in. As community members, we have been out creating workshops, helping for free. I'm a single mother that have my children not having me in the household, trying to do the work that you all should be doing. So I just ask of you, please. I don't even feel like I'm begging or something. You guys, it's your responsibility, right? Just for human sake, for human rights, to not only give this request for funding, but to fund more so that we're adequately able to have the things we need. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes general comment. Let's move to item 24. Mr. Rue, it's my understanding you have an amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I move to a friendly amendment to amend item 24, recommendation A3, related to strengthening the enforcement against illegal commercial cannabis activity, the cannabis budget policy, and related matters to read. Direct the LAPD, with the assistance of the DCR and city attorney, to report with a program to send cease and desist or warning letters to businesses suspected of engaging in illegal cannabis activity, as well as respective property owners renting to illegal cannabis proprietors.
Okay, I'll second yours, Rue. Mr. Rue. All right, let's prepare to...
Excuse me, Mr. President. There is also a written motion, 24C, that has been posted and circulated for council's consideration.
Okay, Mr. Buscaino.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I just first want to rise and recognize the Budget and Finance Committee under the direction of Chairman Krikorian. Thank you, Paul, for your leadership on this. And Mr. President, you and your staff on the social equity program and advancing these dollars from the UB. My questions and concerns stem from the efforts up to date on the enforcement, at which point I'd like to call some of the city family members who are present to the table, and when representing the department, city attorney, building and safety, please come forward. We have gathered some information over the course of the last few years from my district director and a number of our field deputies representing CD15. To date, we have 40 illegally operating dispensaries in my district that have been verified by my staff alongside the Harbor Division officers. So what is your estimated timeline in getting these illegal operating dispensaries shut down?
So, since the utility disconnect was approved, we started implementing that.
Maybe get the microphone, sir, close. Thank you so much. And if you can identify yourself for the record.
Yes, sir. Vito Sisha, Detective, Los Angeles Police Department, Gang and Narcotics Division. Good morning. Since the utility disconnect ordinance was approved, we started implementing that due to the logistical issues as far as personnel available to help facilitate it. We decided to go bureau by bureau. We've started in Valley Bureau. We've already done 22 locations, have about another 10 scheduled next week. It's going really well. It's a pretty fluid, expedient method for us to employ. We intend on being done in the Valley probably next week, and then we're going to start in South Bureau. I know that Harbor Narcotics Enforcement Detail provided us with 10 locations, so we're probably going to start in the Harbor first and then move over to, I believe it's Southeast and then 77th, and Southwest doesn't have very many of them.
Wonderful. We welcome you with open arms. There have been multiple entities that are involved in the enforcement. And how are you all communicating with each other, from DBS to the law enforcement, city attorney?
We continue to have a good relationship with the city attorney's office. I know the locations that our narcotics enforcement details serve search warrants at. The city attorney automatically takes those locations and gives it to one of their paralegals to identify the property owners, and then they send VA letters to the property owners. Meredith can probably speak a little more about that. We also have a good working relationship with DCR. Because of the utility disconnect, we've always had a good working relationship with DWP, but now we have a closer working relationship with them in order to coordinate all our efforts and to go out and implement the utility disconnects. Over the past month, we worked very closely with them, and like I said, it's been an effective tool for us to use, but by no means is it the end-all or the cure-all. It's going to be a conjunction, using all of these tools in conjunction with each other, traditional enforcement, the utility disconnect, the cease and desist letters, and then hopefully sometime in the future here, padlock and boarding.
And the budget has called for, or actually been approved for $2.34 million that have been set aside from the Los Angeles Police Department, sworn overtime in the 18-19 budget for cannabis enforcement. Can you explain to us how those dollars are exactly being spent and allocated?
Yes, sir. So the $2.3 million was a budget that was initially designed to go specifically to cannabis enforcement. As far as the $2.3 million, I think its original intention was any type of cannabis enforcement, just not specific to retail. But obviously that could be amended as we go on, depending on what the priorities are. At the time when the budget was written, it wasn't specific to the other city partners. It was just specific to LAPD. Hopefully some of that money can go to a lot of the strategies that are being utilized now are strategies that could be more effective if we had a more centralized model. Whether it's under DCR or the mayor's office, where you have these decision makers and individuals who are in a position to implement these strategies in a more fluid manner. And so if, such as a utility disconnect or the cease and desist letters, the search warrants can still remain the responsibility of the narcotics enforcement details, but some of these other enforcement strategies can be done in a more centralized manner because you're dealing with so many different city entities. Sure. In order to implement them. So hopefully some of that money can go to increasing the investigators that we have specific to Gang and Narcotics Division that can help facilitate those strategies.
Thanks, Detective, for that. And on the piece of the command control centralizing and the ongoing communication between the city entities, is there an effort to compile a master list of these illegal dispensaries in our city? Does that happen? Because for us, we've been doing it on our own.
Right, and we welcome those lists. And obviously, aside from the lists that your staff or any of the other council people's staffs provide us, we depend very highly on our narcotics enforcement details because they're the ones that are really familiar with the areas that they work in. So every bi-weekly, we ask them, we created a data capture sheet. So on that data capture sheet is basically all the information that enforcement efforts that they've employed, the search warrants, the arrests, the seizures, how many guns, narcotics, and stuff like that. So as a result of the utility disconnect being created and us a uniform cease and desist letter being created that was approved by our Office of Operations, we've created two more columns. One asking how many letters have you sent out, and the other asking how many times have you used the utility disconnect ordinance.
Got it. And for City Attorney, what are you specifically looking forward to? What specific are you looking on the evidence piece of before you target and identify these illegal dispensaries?
In general,
And your
council
name
member.
for the record.
Good morning. My name is Meredith McKittrick Ford. I'm the supervising deputy city attorney of the Marijuana Enforcement Unit. In general terms, before we file a criminal case, we need to evaluate all the evidence that's in front of us and have a significant level of confidence that we can prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt.
So if we provide you a list of 40 illegal dispensaries that clearly show evidence that they are advertising sale of cannabis, can you go directly after the property owner and the business? Is that enough evidence for you?
In general, I don't believe we would be able to proceed with a criminal case based just on the information that you've provided to me.
Say if a narcotic officer undercover just goes into maybe one buy.
If we're provided with an investigation from LAPD, there are various different ways they investigate these, and that's their purview. But once we're provided with an LAPD investigation, then we're then happy to evaluate it,
So
make
if
a
I
judging
recall
decision.
correctly, prior to the legalization of cannabis, I believe the magic number of the city attorney was 3 illegal buys. Is that correct?
In the past, we have handled some cases under Prop D where we were looking at 3 different contacts with the business.
That was some of the frustrations that we had with our narcotic officers in my district. It was like you're asking for a mountain of evidence before you went to press charges on the owner as well as the business as well. But now that we're hopeful that we have now tools in place, a $20,000 fine. So we have the ability to issue $20,000 fines on illegal operating dispensaries and their landlords. Have any of these fines been issued yet?
The $20,000 amount is not actually a fine. It's a civil penalty that could potentially be imposed at the end of civil litigation. I'm happy to provide you with updated numbers on the number of criminal cases we've filed. To date, as of April 5th, 2019, from the point in time when we started filing cases, we've filed 216 cases against 861 defendants involving 182 locations, and we have referred 72 defendants to the ACE program.
And how about cease and desist letters? How many have been given in the last 6 months?
I'd have to defer to Detective C.
Mr. Buscaino, you have to press your button again. I got
Okay.
2 other people on the queue. We'll wrap it up.
So can we answer this last question? Thank you.
Yeah, so the cease and desist letters, an official letter was finally approved for department-wide use about 2 or 3 weeks ago by Office of Operations. So that's the one that we sent out to all our narcotics enforcement details to start issuing to the property owners as well as the businesses. Like I said, we just created that column, so I don't have any solid numbers. Prior to that, each of the narcotics enforcement details kind of drafted their own, and we're sending them out on their own, but there was no record keeping as far as that was concerned. But I know Councilman Ryu had made that request to report back.
with the
So
amendment, right, sure.
after this, I'll be emailing our Office of Operations as well
Thank
as
you.
the NED units and requesting that they.
Thank you. I have a few more questions. I'll push my button again. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Buscaino, if I can get you, Mr. Harris Dawson.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the Budget Committee for making such a strong recommendation on both the social equity program and enforcement. I want to follow up on Mr. Buscaino's line of questioning, and I appreciate you for raising it because we have very similar situation in Council District 8. This will be now my 4th time in a public meeting asking the exact same question. How many times have we pursued the civil penalty against landowners? So there are 182 locations where people are getting arrested, theoretically, and charged with misdemeanors. The same way we used to do when we had the war on drugs. We find somebody with drugs in the alley, we arrest them, we go on. So we got at least, you just identified 182 locations. Did we pursue the civil penalty against the landlord in any of those cases?
This is David Michelson with the Office of the City Attorney. I'm happy to try to address those questions with Meredith, my colleague's assistance. Meredith, with respect to the criminal cases, have any criminal cases been brought against owners of the property?
Yes.
Do you know offhand how many?
So I'm sorry, Mr. Michelson.
Yeah.
I'm asking about the civil penalty.
No, I appreciate that, Councilmember.
Okay.
I'm going to answer that, I promise. But in the overall context of the city's cannabis laws, as we all know, there are two, well, as the detective wisely points out, there are multiple tools in the toolbox. And it's incumbent upon the city to use all those tools, to use them effectively, and I would add efficiently. One of the relatively new tools that was the benefit of the new cannabis laws was criminal enforcement, misdemeanors. And that is a fairly significant tool in terms of getting compliance now and in the future. And that tool has been, and this is important, utilized not just against owners of the businesses, but also against property owners. Another tool in the toolbox, and that's what Meredith has confirmed, we have brought those criminal cases against property owners, and we'll continue to do so. We've been very aggressive working in our partnership with the LAPD. With respect to another tool in the toolbox, it's civil enforcement in a nuisance context. Under the cannabis laws, in addition to criminal enforcement, misdemeanor prosecution, there is the ability for the city to bring carefully and judiciously civil nuisance cases. And if we're successful in bringing those cases, that's a potential for a $20,000 fine, potentially even daily. The caution is the following. Bringing the civil cases are very time intensive. They can take years before they work their way through the courts. We never really know what the judges will do with them, including we don't know what degree of fine the court will actually ultimately issue. And once those fines are issued, we don't even know if these owners will have the necessary resources to pay them at that point. So because these civil cases are very time intensive and resource intensive and can take a number of years, we are going to be very cautious in our office as to where we bring those. And we will bring those, and no question we will bring those cases forward relatively soon when they are justified and when it is appropriate to do so in the context of the particular business owners and individuals that we're looking at. Yes, it is a tool, the civil enforcement, just as the criminal prosecutions, but it's a tool that, again, requires a lot more resources, and therefore we're being cautious when we bring them forward. But we will utilize them, and utilize them in the context that they will hopefully have the impact that we all desire, meaning that going through that entire process, which could take a few years, has the potential for a good court ruling and the potential to collect fines where appropriate as much as reasonably possible.
So that was really good contextual information and a good rounded explanation of the approach, but it's not responsive to my specific question. 182, please, thank you, because I got limited time, folks. 182 locations. Are we pursuing any of them? Out of 182 cases, was there one that met the mark?
So out of the 102 cases that were criminal prosecution, I'm looking at Meredith, are we looking at any of them with respect to potential civil nuisance abatement cases as well in the relatively near future?
Locations that we've already gone criminally?
Yeah. No, we're not. We're looking at other locations.
All right. So a couple things I'd offer to you all. A lot of this is in the realm of speculation, right? So we say, oh, if we do this, people will change their behavior. Here's the thing. We have a thing that's very powerful and frankly was very compelling to the voters because I was out there. Many of my constituents were frankly against Measure M without these penalties against the landowners. And if we don't try it even once out of 182 cases where it was bad enough where we could arrest an individual, that's what we're saying. It was bad enough to you where you saw a person and you arrested them, but it's not good enough to go after the owner, then effectively the message we're sending to people is the penalty against the owner is not a serious thing.
It is a serious thing, Councilmember. We're bringing criminal prosecutions against those property owners, and we will bring civil abatement cases in the near future where warranted and where the resources are appropriately applied.
Well, so I guess in terms of educating my constituents, it would be really good to get an idea of when a location reaches that mark or when it's a case that you feel like you could be successful on. Because I'd offer this. It's true that it could take years, and I believe that you are right on point when you predict what the judges will likely do and how they will handle it. That's your space. I believe that you know it. But here's the thing. You don't know how a person's going to respond just at the threat of it. So just a letter saying we're taking you to court and you could get fined $20,000 a day. I can tell you, a lot of mom and pop property owners in my part of town, that's enough. They're done. But as long as you don't try it, and this has happened, we spend city resources, we shut down a location, we arrest people, it goes away. Several months later, it comes back with a new operator in the same exact business, with the same landowner, collecting rent in cash every month, totally exploiting the system at the top of the food chain with no accountability.
Well, I appreciate that, council member. I can guarantee you the following. Number one, our office will continue working in partnership with the LAPD to bring criminal prosecutions against individuals who are involved in illegal commercial cannabis activity, including property owners. We will continue to do that. We think that is a very important tool. It's an appropriate criminal prosecution. That is a very significant deterrent. We will absolutely remain committed to that process, working again in partnership with the LAPD. In addition to that, the other tool in the toolbox that you're rightfully pointing to, which is civil abatement, coupled with the potential for as much as $20,000 daily, we will absolutely, the city attorney's office, be bringing forth those cases as well in the not too distant future. Those cases will be very carefully selected so they are appropriate to bring and will be a good use of significant city resources and hopefully be successful at the end of that process as well, quite frankly, because otherwise why do it? But we are absolutely committed in our office to use all those tools, including civil abatement. And you will see fairly soon action in that regard in terms of civil abatement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Harris Dawson, for your line of questioning. I think we all share your frustration. And I think, to the detective's point, I think one of the most effective tools that we just put in place was the utilization of the utility shutoff. It's a common sense, no-nonsense approach. I think sending a letter from the city of Los Angeles to the property owner is equally a no-nonsense and simple approach to instill the seriousness of the violations that are happening. My question is related to how do we deal with, for example, if there's businesses that are unlicensed and selling liquor in our neighborhoods, we go after them. If there are restaurateurs that don't have a grade or violation of grades in the city of Los Angeles and in the county, why aren't we leveraging more resources and more effort towards shutting down the individuals that are clearly committing infractions in the city of Los Angeles, are operating illegally, many times selling product that is the quality of the product is questionable and is causing greater problems in the community? How much more time are we going to take before we start getting these letters out to these property owners that are clearly in continued violation of the rules and regulations that we adopted and put in place? When are those letters going to start going out to these property owners that are clearly in violation?
They're going out now, ma'am. As far as the effect of those letters, I don't have that answer because within the last 2 weeks is when we started directing all of our narcotics enforcement details to start using this one uniform letter. So, and then, like I said earlier, based on Councilman Rue's report back, I'm going to email them again, obviously stressing it, and email our Office of Operations. Because all we can do under Gang and Narcotics Division, we don't have the authority to direct or command them to do anything. It's their commanding officer.
No, I understand. It also should be the role and work of our city attorney's office to assist us in making sure that that's happening, because that is going to help assure the quality of life issues that we are confronting in our community, the threats that we are continuing to undergo. And so we're seeking your help in actually making sure that this gets accomplished, and not 3 weeks from now, but immediately, because we have chronic cases where this has been a problem and it's not getting addressed.
Well, thank you, Councilmember. David Michelson, again, City Attorney's Office. In working with our partners at the LAPD, we have been assisting, and we've been applying an incredible amount of resources in our office to deal with illegal commercial cannabis activity. With respect to the cease and desist letters, over the last month, maybe a month and a half, we've worked with the LAPD to help craft that letter that is now going out. So we are playing our role in our partnership with the LAPD and Department of Cannabis and Regulations, Building and Safety. It's definitely a team effort, but we're there every day, quite frankly, doing all the work you're saying.
Because I know the property owner in my district, for example, that has now had multiple. We've been successful in shutting them down. They're part of the Valley Bureau effort that we've been deploying in the area. But that property owner still has not received any communication of that sort. So I look forward to seeing a copy of that letter. I look forward to making sure that this is something that you continue to pursue, because we are constantly chasing our tails with enforcement efforts that at the end are allowing the same bad actors to continue to just open up their doors, collect their revenue, and not be held accountable for their part of this conversation. And I think we need to put an end to it. Mr. Harris-Dawson, I agree with you. I think the individuals that are on the front line, that is the small bit players here. There are far more egregious violations that are happening, and we need to be vigilant in making sure that we are going after the individuals that continue to create this type of nuisance in our community.
Hundreds of cases.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Krikorian?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First of all, before I forget, I'd like to move the Budget and Finance Committee report as amended by 24C and Mr. Rue's verbal amendment. But I have a question, I guess, directed to you, Mr. Michelson, because after having heard Mr. Harris-Dawson's questions, it sounds as though there's a multi-layered enforcement strategy directed to landlords, including the cutoff letters, including the criminal sanctions, but the civil part has been, at least to date, completely missing. And it's what I thought I heard from you is it's kind of a resource issue, whether to devote resources for a potential civil remedy that may come years down the road potentially. But here's what and I shouldn't think out loud, I guess, in a council meeting, but here's my thought. Every single meeting or almost every single meeting, every week anyway, we get liens against property owners, commercial property owners who have illegal fences or improper signage or some other violation of the building code or something else, where we have an administrative fine and then we get a lien against them, absolutely easily enforceable whenever they sell that property. Is there some reason that these offenses, which I think are much more egregious than most building and safety violations, cannot be enforced in an administrative way in the same way, and then we take advantage of the lien procedure?
In thinking out loud with you, Councilmember Krikorian, that's something certainly we would look at. Typically, with respect to liens, there is statutory process laid out in the laws that provide ultimately for a lien to be imposed on property and due process associated with that. So that's something we can look at and report back.
Yeah, I think it would be useful because, one of the issues that you raised is, well, we don't know whether you're ever going to be able to collect on a civil judgment. You have a criminal sanction against a property owner, that will wake them up. But you have a question about whether there's going to be collectability on a civil enforcement. That's why we should get a lien, because the property has value and we'll always be able to collect against the property itself.
And certainly, if we're successful after a couple of years in civil court and are able to obtain a civil remedy, that's a judgment that can be executed on and potentially be associated with a lien as well. But I think you're suggesting even long before that, is there a way to somehow leverage in the concept of a lien on the property? That's something we can look at. I'll also mention, and I was just consulting with my colleague Meredith, that with respect to criminal prosecutions, including against property owners, we've brought hundreds of these cases. We've been very successful, and as part of being successful, we ask the court to issue, in the context of probation orders, often strict requirements that they not just turn around and reopen. If they do reopen, they're violating their probation, and there's significant criminal sanctions associated with that. That is a very potent tool. But it's one of many tools. We get it. And I think fairly soon you'll see us in the city attorney's office utilizing the civil nuisance abatement tool as well.
And that's especially important because the illegal operators will just move from location to location, and if they have to move, that's the cost of doing business because they're making so much illegal money. But then to Ms. Rodriguez's point too, you also have property owners who, once one bad operator is gone, they'll welcome the next one right in. And maybe it's the same one just operating under a different name or with different cousins working the business. So I think both of those aspects are very important to be able to enforce the law against the bad actors who are really, causing the majority of this problem.
And I'll add briefly to that, and I'm looking at Meredith so she can correct me if I get this wrong. In the context of criminal prosecution, whether it's against the property owner or the owner of the business, typically as part of their probation, as I mentioned, they shall not and must not simply turn around down the street or in another council district, open back for business. And if they do, they are violating their probation terms, and then what? It's off to jail?
That's correct. Generally, as a term of probation for a property owner, it would either be that they not lease, rent to, or otherwise allow, in language that tracks the municipal code section, any commercial cannabis activity. In some cases, it's any illegal commercial cannabis activity. That term runs with the person as opposed to the property when it's a probation term.
Very good.
Thank you. I recall oftentimes as a senior lead officer, we focus on problem solving. And for me, the root cause of the problem here clearly are the property owners. And we have to prioritize these civil penalties. Otherwise, because these are the same individuals who are handing keys over to these illegal operators. And most of these property owners I have found are absentee property owners. So we have to put the interests of those who are doing this legally and the interests of the community members in front of protecting these property owners. This is some of the frustrations that we've had over the course of the last several years. So appreciate the work that you continue to do on these filings and the detectives who are out there working alongside our city departments. So with that, Mr. Harris-Dawson?
Yeah, I'm sorry to belabor this, but I just want to be crystal clear because you all keep raising criminal penalties. So can you tell me, because I assume you're raising them in the context of the discussion we're having, how many criminal penalties have been placed against property owners?
Do you know how many cases? I can tell you, Council Member Meredith McKittrick from the City Attorney's Office. Of the total number of defendants that we have filed on 329 defendants that can be categorized as property owners. So it's a significant number and a significant percentage of our total. I could not, as I sit here now, tell you with specificity how many we've placed on probation or disposed of the criminal case in some other way, if that is your question.
So over 300 property owners.
Yes.
So when you place a property owner on probation and they transfer the property to their cousin, that property comes back and it's not in violation of probation?
It would depend on the specifics of the case. I couldn't say as a blanket statement they either are or not in violation of whatever the terms of their probation might be. It would really be an evaluation of the specific facts of that situation.
Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you for letting me come back again, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So we have a motion from the Chairman of Budget and Finance. I second that motion. With that, let us open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
As approved. Thank you. Thank you.
Approved as amended.
Approve as amended. What's now before us?
Council has motions for posting and referral.
They're posted and referred. Any announcements, colleagues? Members, any announcements? Okay, seeing none. Please rise for adjourning motions. All rise for adjourning motions. Any adjourning motions? To my left. I see none. To my right. Okay, I see none. We are now adjourned. Go forth and serve the people of this great city. Thank you.